Jake here for American Trucks, and in this video I'm taking a look at the Barricade Extreme HD modular front bumper with LED daytime running lights, fitting 2019 and newer Ram 1500s, excluding Rebel and TRX models. If more protection, aggressive style, and additional capabilities are on your wish list for a new bumper, then Barricade has got you covered here with this Extreme HD modular bumper. Not only does it have some seriously aggressive style, but it provides you with modular capabilities to fit further accessories. And it'll also give you additional protection out on the street or trail, and you get some additional lighting as well. There's a lot to discuss here, but let's start with the styling. Not only is this cut up much higher than your standard bumper, but it also has a really aggressive overall style. Really gives the Ram a strong square-jawed type of appearance, and having the bumper sit up closer to the body in this situation is going to mean that you'll have much better approach angle versus stock as well. So if you are doing some off-roading, that'll be a nice benefit to have. And since this is a heavy-duty bumper too, you get some additional impact protection. This thing is absolutely solid, and if you're busting down a trail, no need to be concerned about any obstacles. This guy can take a beating. Now, it is also modular, hence the name, meaning that you get the provisions for a winch mount and an overrider bar and some other accessories should you want or need to accessorize the front end of your truck. Now, keep in mind, those are not included in the kit. You'll have to purchase them separately, but again, this has the capability to have them fitted. So whether it's for looks or functionality, you've got the provisions to make that stuff happen. And on top of that, you can be sure that it's going to look good out on the street or trail as well. And that's thanks partially to the styling, but also thanks to the included LED daytime running lights that are included right here. Now, these are just two LED strips that mount on either side of the bumper. They already come installed in the bumper for you, and it helps add to that aggressive look. Now, these are designed to plug into your factory harness. You've got everything you needed included in the kit right here to make these work and play really nicely with the rest of your Ram's lights. And again, it's going to just look really good with the Ram's front end, and I think it's certainly going to set your truck apart from the rest. And while additional fog lights are not included in this setup, you do have the ability to mount those as well right there in that front grille section. That's actually 3 pieces, the center and these 2 on the side. So these will pop right out for you and make room for that winch plate that we were talking about earlier, or again, some additional lighting. And that really is the beauty of a modular bumper like this one. Now, you also get provisions in the bumper for your parking sensors right here on either side. So those can be ported over easily. Barricade also offers a matching rear bumper too, so if you want a complete setup, we have that available on our site as well. The construction of this bumper, I think, speaks to that heavy-duty part of the name. Comprised entirely of 5/32 steel plating, this guy is seriously tough. The steel is cold formed into its final shape as you see it here, so that means it hasn't been weakened by being heated up. Cold forming helps maintain that structural rigidity. It's all capped off with a 2-stage finish. The first layer is an epoxy coating, which is then covered with this textured black powder coat that you see here. So it's going to provide you some excellent corrosion resistance. It'll definitely be able to stand up to whatever you can throw at it out on the street or trail. Now, all of the bracketry is made from the same material, so everything is going to be just as sturdy as what you see on the outside. And those lights that we were talking about earlier are again LEDs, so they're going to be very bright and will have a nice long lifespan, just like the bumper itself. Pricing comes in at about $700, which for a full width modular bumper that includes some LEDs is a pretty good value for your money. It's one of the least expensive full bumpers available for this generation of Ram, but it's still a good quality item with a lot of flexibility. So for that, I think you're getting a good deal for your money. Installation will get a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter and should take you about 2 hours to complete. Now, this is a pretty straightforward process, and since this is a total bolt-on replacement for your stock bumper, there's no modification to the truck needed to get this fitted. However, I would definitely recommend having a second set of hands with you because this thing is pretty darn heavy, and fitting a bumper can be really cumbersome by yourself no matter how strong you are. You also get all the wiring that you need for those lights included in the kit, and honestly, running that is probably going to take you just as long, if not a little bit longer, than bolting up the bumper itself. Either way, this is certainly a project that you can undertake at home. Maybe just call a friend in to have them help you. But to show you the process now, let's head on out to the shop.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, an electric and hand ratchet, a clip remover tool, a flathead screwdriver, a pair of scissors or diagonal cutters, a few zip ties, 10, 16, and 18 millimeter wrenches, 17 and 16 millimeter ratcheting wrenches, an extension, 8, 10, 16, and 18 millimeter sockets, a 4 millimeter Allen socket, a swivel adapter, and a couple microfiber towels. What's up, guys? Today we're installing a front bumper on our Ram First, we're gonna watch a quick uninstall video for how to remove your stock bumper, and then I'll meet you right back here for the install.
So right off the bat here, you can see our truck is on the lift. I just wanted to say, you don't need a lift to do this. This is definitely extremely easy. We just do that to make it a little bit easier on our camera guy, make sure he can see everything and get you the information that you need to know to do this to your brand new Ram. First step though, we're gonna grab the ratchet 8mm socket. There's 5 bolts we're going to remove in the wheel well right here. We're gonna get those out of the way, and that's going to allow us to remove a plastic wheel well liner that's connected to our front bumper. So now we have those 3 out. This piece is loose on our bumper, but it's still kind of trapped in there. So there's 2 more we're gonna remove, and that should pull right out. And you can see those are slotted, so you only need to loosen them up to be able to pull that plastic piece out of the way. Now we're gonna come over to the other side and do the same thing. So once you got the driver's side plastic removed, we can move on to the next step. And that's gonna be this master wiring harness. We gotta disconnect that, and that'll unplug all the electronics on our bumper. First thing we're gonna do is move this switch from that position right there to the open position, and that will allow us to pop open this clamp right here, like so. And then if we just keep going with that, it should push the plug apart. Now, next up, we could actually move underneath the bumper here and disconnect this thing from the frame. There's 3 18mm nuts that hold this thing on. The one that I have the wrench on right now is a little bit tough to get to with the impact gun, so ratcheting wrench it is, but the other 2 aren't so bad, so we should be able to get into those with the socket and extension to remove them, and then we're gonna do the same thing for the other side. And just like the other side, we're gonna start at the top with the ratcheting wrench, then move to the impact for the last 2. Now we're gonna remove the 2 bolts on the outside. This is the last thing holding on our bumper, so you wanna make sure you have a good handle on it before you remove these. Now this bumper is loose, so we're just gonna pull it straight back and off the truck.
So now that we have our bumper removed, we are gonna have to reuse our stock wiring harness. It's just held in by a bunch of clips. So I've got a clip remover tool to pop those out. And then we just have to disconnect the 2 connectors on our fog lights. So to remove the connector on our fog light, we need to pull back on this red tab. If it gets stuck in there, you can take a flathead screwdriver to work that back. And then we'll push in the black tab and pull back. And then we can grab our clip remover tool and follow our harness, popping out all of the clips. And now we'll do that same thing on the other side. And then we can feed our harness through the bumper. And pull it out. So now we're ready to assemble our new bumper. The first thing we're gonna do is bolt down our wings. Now these can fold So we have our M10 by 1.5 bolts that we're going to be putting in these two slots, and then we're going to be tightening up our pivot bolts with a 16 and 17 millimeter ratcheting wrench. So now we can take those M10 bolts with a lock washer and flat washer and thread them into our holes. And then I'll take a 16 millimeter socket to tighten these down. So now we can take a 16 millimeter ratcheting wrench on our bolt side and a 17 millimeter ratcheting wrench on our nut side and tighten up our pivot bolts. And now we can repeat that same process on the other side. Next, we can install our grills. We have a longer one that's going right in the middle, and then two smaller ones that go on the ends. Now we have our 4 millimeter Allen combo bolts that are going to be going from the inside out, and then a 10 millimeter nut that'll be going on the other side. Now once we have all of our hardware threaded into place, we can take a 4 millimeter Allen socket and a 10 millimeter wrench to tighten these down. Next, we can install our upper trim piece. We've got our button head bolts with a flat washer that are going to be going through the top with another flat washer and a lock nut on the bottom. And we'll tighten that all down with a 4 millimeter Allen socket and a 10 millimeter wrench. So now we can raise up our trim piece and put our bolt through. And then on the back side, we'll get that second flat washer and our lock nut. And then we'll do that same thing on the sides. And then we can take that 4 millimeter Allen socket and 10 millimeter wrench to tighten those down. Next, we can install our license plate bracket. We're going to be using the same hardware that we did for our upper trim piece. So we'll take our bolt with the flat washer and put that through the hole. And then we'll grab our second flat washer and our locking nut on the back side. And then we'll do that same thing for our other hole. And then we'll take that 4 millimeter Allen socket and 10 millimeter wrench to tighten these down. And now we can install the two clips for our license plate bolts. These will just press in, so just line them up and press down. Next, we can install our caps for our parking sensor holes. Now, if you do have parking sensors from the factory, you're going to want to transfer these over. If not, like in our case, you can just line up these caps and press them in. And then we can install the caps on the other side the same exact way. Now at this point, if you did transfer over your parking sensors, this would be when you grab that harness from the bumper that we removed earlier. We do have these two extension harnesses for the two furthest away sensors. That way we can reach to our harness. Now in our case, we don't have parking sensors, so we're not going to be installing our factory harness, so we can just proceed with the next step. Now we're ready to install our mounting brackets onto our frame horns. We've got our M12 bolt with a lock washer and flat washer that's going to be going through the front, and then another flat washer and nut on the back. Now on the back, we'll get that second flat washer and our nut. Now another important note, these are labeled with a D and a P for driver and passenger. Next, we can grab our 18mm socket and wrench to tighten these down. And now once we have our bracket installed on one side, we can do that same thing on the other side. So next we can tackle our wiring. I've got our harness laid out, kind of how it'll go. We have our 2 battery terminal connectors right next to our battery. We've got our switch that's going to go through our firewall and into the cabin. And then we've got our 2 connectors for our LED strips that we're going to drop down to the floor. So we'll tackle our battery terminals first. We've got 10mm nuts on both of our terminals that we'll use a 10mm socket to remove. We'll slide our connectors on and then reinstall those nuts. Next, we can run our switch through the firewall. Now there's this module here right next to our brake booster. There's a grommet right underneath of it that's going to be very hard to see. We're just going to push that grommet backwards towards the firewall, and then we can slide our switch through. And now we can go into the cabin and pull that switch the rest of the way through. So now we can grab our switch and pull it through so that we can mount it to the dash. Before we do that, I'm going to take an alcohol wipe just to clean the surface. We'll give that a chance to dry before we stick it down. Now you can place the switch wherever you'd like. I'm going to put it right here just so that we don't have a lot of wiring hanging out. So we'll reach down and find our switch and pull it through, and then we can remove the backing and stick it down once our alcohol wipe dries. Now that our alcohol wipe has dried up, we can pull off the backing of our double-sided tape and stick our switch down. Next, we're going to zip tie all of the excess wiring from our switch. So we'll just bunch it all up and then add our zip tie. And then you can take a pair of scissors or diagonal cutters to cut the excess. And then we'll tuck it out of the way behind our battery. Now the last thing we need to do for our wiring is run our 2 connectors for our DRLs down towards the floor. So I'm just going to drop these down through this open slot. Now we can come underneath the truck and pull our wires the rest of the way through. Now one of these connectors is going to be going to the other side, so I'm going to run that over the frame rail. And now we can grab our bumper and install it onto our brackets. So now we're ready to bolt our bumper up to our brackets. We have our bolts with lock washers and flat washers. One of them is going to get this nut. The other 2 are going to get this bolt plate. Now the two that are closer together are obviously gonna get the bolt plate. That's gonna sit on the outside here. We're gonna put our bolts from the inside out to tighten it down. Now you're gonna wanna grab yourself a buddy to lift up the bumper and get it aligned and get your bolts installed. So now I've got my buddy, we're gonna lift up the bumper onto our frame horn brackets and get our bolts installed. So now you can line up your bumper and adjust it how you'd like, and then we'll take a 16mm socket. We'll tighten down these two bolts first. Now for our top bolt, I'm gonna get our socket on the nut side, and I'll take an open end wrench for the bolt side. Let's tighten that down. Now once you have your bolts tightened down on one side, you can do the same thing on the other side. So now we're ready to finalize our wiring and get everything zip tied up out of the way. Now in our frame horn bracket, there's a hole that we can run this connector through. And then we can plug in the wire that we ran over the frame rail on the other side. On our body mount, we have a nice spot that we can zip tie around. So we'll pull our wire tight, get our zip tie into place. We can bunch up our wire. And then we'll take that pair of scissors or diagonal cutters to cut off the excess of our zip tie. And now we can do that same thing on the other side with the driver's side body mount.
That's going to wrap it up here for our review and install of the Barricade Extreme HD modular front bumper with LED daytime running lights, fitting 2019 and newer Ram 1500s, excluding Rebel and TRX models. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, for all things Ram, be sure to keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.